Man, it makes me so happy when the tech works.
I know. He was like, yes, I did it.
It did it. Like the past few weeks, Zoom was just not doing it for me. And I don't know why. I fixed my settings. Everything's, it seems like everything's working now. So glad you're here. So colorful. I love seeing you on the other side of my camera here. It's so good. And then you switched around. So it's kind of very cute, Keanu Reeves-ish. I want to, before I give your official bio, I usually give a digital marketing tip of the week. And knowing that we had so much to cover, I'm just going to do something super quick so that we can get to our conversation.
Totally. I want to hear a marketing tip.
So this was a question that came to me in my membership group this morning. Somebody had a quick question. And just about Google Forms and where to make them and how to use them. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I'm just going to give a quick how-to. You guys can see my dog there. Look at my dog. Let's see. So I have it open here. So if you go to your Google Drive and you go to New, and then you go down here to More, and you go over to Google Forms. This is what you're looking for. You'll have an option to use a blank form or from a template. I'll go ahead and start with a blank form. And you guys, this is super quick. If you need more information, let's talk about it. You're just going to give it a title. You have to add, so you can change the settings whether or not you want people to add their email address. Some people don't want to share that, and you'll have to give that some thought as to whether or not you want that involved in this particular email. You want to put what you're going to call the form, why you've created this form, and then you're going ahead and add your questions. So you can add a text question, just some text in here. You can add, let's see, another question, and then you can change the kind of questions you have. It can be multiple choice, check boxes, drop downs. You can add a file if you had something that you wanted people to like read before they answer the question. I've never used these other ones, so I can't really speak to them, although they look pretty self-explanatory. You can, if you have a question, you can make it so that it's a very short answer, or it can be something where you give them some more space. And you can just keep adding questions in there. It has options too, to go in and change what it looks like. You can add your own header up in here. You can change the colors as you want to, and just play around with some of the fonts. So super quick. What I do often too is when I'm using a Google form, you can have it sync right into a Google spreadsheet, which is super helpful if you want to have everything in one spot. I'll show you the one that I'd use for this particular project. When I are interviewing people, they fill out this form. So you can see that this is the one that you got, Minessa. That
it is. That looks familiar.
Yep. I'm actually going to change it up a little bit and make it even more simple with just some questions I'll ask you so that you don't have to come up with your topic. And short answers, long answers, I am collecting email addresses. And then here's where I get my responses. When I go to the form on my end, I can see a summary of everybody who's filled out the form and all of the answers on each of the different questions I've asked. And then usually what I'll do, so for instance, what I did today for Minessa was I went to individual. I forget what, I don't know, let's just say that she was 35. I'm not sure she was, Alyssa. Anyway, so then whoever's turn it is, I come over here and I want to, this is what I did today for Minessa, I want to, it says print, but I'm not going to print it because my printer doesn't work and I never use paper. I'm going to save it as a PDF. I save it to my desktop, and now I have it for our talk today. I have that as a resource. And it's also what I sent to Minessa yesterday to say, hey, our talk's tomorrow. Just wanted to remind you, here's what you filled out on the form. So that was an answer.
Oh, one thing, Susan, can you show how you get the form to people? Because it took me forever to figure it out.
Oh my gosh,
I had no idea. I was trying so hard and I just couldn't figure it out. I mean, I figured it out eventually, but it took me forever.
Such a good question, right? So I go to send, and then it gives you options.
Ooh.
So you can either email it directly. This is what I use mostly. I put a button, and I use
I've
this
never
thing.
actually used the send. I used the eyeball. This is so much better. This is way better. That's why I asked, because I knew you would know the way
Yeah,
to go.
sometimes the eyeball messes up because then
It does.
it messes it up.
Yes, and that's why I was like, oh, please. I was like, please let there be a better way. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
you're
for sharing that.
welcome. Oh, I'm so glad that helped. Here's another thing. You can embed.
Huh.
Oh, okay. On a regular one, you can embed it onto a web page or any place that'll take in HTML.
Who knew? Great. Thanks for sharing that.
I'm glad that was helpful. That was from my friend Rita, who was on the call with me this morning. Awesome sauce. So let's talk about you. I met Minessa.
Let's talk about your audience.
My audience is pretty amazing. I'm telling you, all right, so we're going to talk. So when I was doing digital marketing for so long, I had some corporate clients, and I still have the corporate clients. But honestly, the fact that I've been drawn to this particular audience of heart-centered entrepreneurs and light workers and energy healers I never realized how good it could be to be of service to people. And not only that, so I can offer my gifts to people, but here's the thing. Every single person that I talk to is feeding me with their energy, right? Like they've got their area of brilliance, and I get to talk with people about emotional intelligence and chakras, and I get to talk about the really cool things that I've always wanted to learn about. I've created this world around myself for learning. So, and you're one of these people that I've wanted to learn. Minessa and I met at a Wise Her event, which was fantastic.
Awesome.
We'll have to give Wise Her a little plug here if you guys need any kind of help. It's such a great platform to find quick, easy answers from, I don't even know how many hundreds of coaches they have out there.
Oh my God. And there's so many, no matter what you need help with, you can get like a half-hour call, bam, and get your questions answered. I've used it actually for my goal this year, speaking.
Oh, that's a good point then. Oh, that's a really good point. All right, so Minessa and I met there, and it was awesome. And now I follow her on her website, on her Facebook page, and I get her emails, and you guys, you're going to love it. I mean, just look at her. She's so colorful in herself and in her space, but also all the work she does is super colorful, and I really, it draws my eye. Minessa is a transformation coach, writer, founder of the Social Strategy Squad. She is the co-host of the Friends in Our Phone podcast and the creator of the Roadmap to Success, TM Bootcamp.
TM. Well, you know what? I actually took the TM off because I was working on getting the trademark, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. I didn't take it off.
Okay, I didn't know if that meant something or if it meant trademark. So Roadmap
yeah,
to
I was
Success.
going to have it make trademark, and then I was like, oh my God, the effort is not worth it. It's fine. If somebody else wants a Roadmap to Success, it's fine. They can have it.
She has spent the last several years helping female entrepreneurs successfully integrate business into their lives without letting it take over entirely. Her mission is to empower business women to design and live the life they want right now by using an effective blend of mindfulness, neuropsychology, social media know-how, and I don't know if I can say this on video, but a whole lot of 80s and 90s pop culture analogies. She is a New Englander who prefers to drink iced tea from Soup's fancy glasses, S-U-P-E-S. Super.
I'm a big fan of abbreviating words. I create my own abbreviations a lot. Soup's fancy glasses.
She lives next to a cemetery with her 3 dogs and her husband, where she enjoys morning walks, meditating, binge watching post-apocalyptic sci-fi, and fantasy TV shows. And when I asked Minessa what her superpower is, and I'm going to have to know more about this, Minessa, she told me that her superpower is analogies. And our topic today is business as an experiment. So tell me more about analogies as a superpower.
Oh, you know what? I'm actually going to, I'll actually throw one out there right now. So let's think about business in general. This is my favorite analogy, is MTV. So when we all first started our businesses, we saw a huge amount of support from our friends, our family members. We often see an uptick and a surge of interest in our business, and it goes really well, usually for new business owners, for about 3 to 6 months. After those 3 to 6 months, it becomes harder and harder to find new customers, and the things that we did in the beginning don't necessarily work as well, because what you need to be successful as a long-term sustainable business is a different skill set from the skills that you need to get started in a business. And the same thing holds true with MTV. So when MTV first started, remember the calls, honey, get me my MTV, lover boy on the call. You had MTV was huge, and it was a huge fad. The reason it was so big was because it was new and it hadn't been done before. When you start your business, it's new because it hasn't been done before. But what happened 6 or 7 years after MTV was out? We had now had Duran Duran and Aha and all these amazing videos, and videos were starting to become, people were not spending as much time watching music video television. They had to come up with something else. So what did they come up with? What happens when people stop being polite and start getting real? They tried something different with the real world. And that is at the crux of our businesses, which is that we often, when we get started, we get comfortable in what we're doing. And I think that's the same with life. We often talk about business as if it's like a difference from our life. We talk about work-life balance as if they're separate. But our work is part of our life, and we have to find a way to integrate that. In order to do that, we need to be willing to observe what we're doing without judgment and adapt and pivot towards, okay, music videos aren't working anymore. Let's try the real world, our version of those things. And now, 40 years later, MTV is still around. It's not going, it's still making tons of money. Viacom's making tons of money. It's still there because of the willingness that the executives have to adapt and pivot. So there's my analogy, my first analogy of the morning, 80s pop culture trivia.
Wow, that's right. You covered both of those things. So good. So what are some of the things then? Let's talk about that then. What are some of the things that people can do to adapt and for instance, I was on some websites the other day, and they still have that old database website, right? And she's talking about being a connector and what a great database it is. However, I don't think that they've adapted to the new visual opportunities that are out there, and the new social media. Not even new, just the social media aspects of it all too. How in business, how do we become aware of, this might not be working, or this might be better? And then also, but on the other side of that, I'm asking you 2 questions at the same time, not get distracted by the shiny object of changing too many times.
Yes, those are great questions. I think first and foremost, it starts by understanding your focus. You've been talking about that quite a bit in your emails and stuff about picking your goal, focusing on it, knowing what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And we talked a little bit earlier about how 2020, you're going to be working on speaking this year, me as well. So we actually have similar goals this year. When you know what your focus is in your business, what you're actually trying to accomplish, you can, you want to have that written down somewhere so that when you are confronted with these shiny objects, you can go back to your mission statement in your head and say, how does this fit in? I think for me, when I first started my business, and this is sort of where I started to realize that business is an experiment, it's not a done deal, is that my business was doing really well when I started it. I did great, and I did great 3 months and 6 months and 10 months. It went great the whole way through. But there were times in there where it started to, I could tell it was plateauing. Something was changing. And one of the things my husband says that I'm actually quite good at, because we talk about this a lot, is recognizing when the tides are turning, when something is happening and it's different. So the first thing that's very important is, one, knowing what you're trying to accomplish and what results you're trying to see, and looking at them, and this is critical, without judgment. None of these things are a referendum on who you are as a person. These are simply, you're taking an action and there is a result. If you want a different result, you can take a different action. So I think the first step towards awareness is divorcing the judgment from the awareness, because too often when we become aware of something isn't working, the first statement we will say is exactly those words: it's not working.
Right.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, I said right. You're absolutely right.
So, and the problem with that is that When you say it's not working, when you use those words specifically, and language is something, is my husband and I, this is our jam. We talk about how important language is all the time. Many of our disagreements have been averted because we define words differently. And we tend to, when you say something isn't working, your mind then turns that into, I am a failure, I don't know what I'm doing, because there's no action item you can take if something isn't working. So if your kid comes up to you, here's another analogy. If your kid comes up to you and it's like, Mom, I don't feel well, fix me. And okay, what's the first thing that you do? You say, well, what hurts? Because you can't fix the problem if you don't know what it actually is. So you ask them all these questions, and eventually you figure out, oh, you stubbed your toe. Okay, put some ice on it. But it takes a series of questions to get there. At some point in life, we stopped doing that for ourselves. And what we started doing instead was saying, it's not working, and moving. And this all happens very honestly. I don't think this is not judgment that it happens, but it's important that we be aware that it happens so we can change the behavior. Instead of saying it's not working, ask yourself poignant questions. What isn't working, and what are the symptoms that are telling you that? If you accept that it's not a value judgment on yourself, it becomes less scary to be aware of the things that you want to change. So, for example, going live is really hard for a lot of people. It's really hard for a lot of people.
Yes.
Because they're worried about looking foolish. They're worried about nobody showing up. They're worried about the final product being terrible. I'm not wearing makeup. This backdrop that I have is amazing, but let me tell you, it took me 4 years to put this together. I was doing it on a floor with, I fogged cameras. I've done all kinds of lives. Over the years, I did them over and over and over again. And each time I did it, I'm like, I didn't like the way that, I can fix this, I can change that. When you think of your business activities as an experiment, instead of thinking of things as working and not working, you start thinking, okay, I can improve that. I can improve that. I don't want to do that. That's taking up too much time.
So good.
And now you're putting yourself in a position of power as opposed to a position of victimhood. When it's not working, you're a victim. When what can I do to change this, you're empowered.
I have to let that sit in here. That was so good. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I was just dropped by steel over me.
And so to that point too, and I think that for all of my personal inhibitions or worries or whatever, something that somebody had said to me one time, it was Kiva, said, you've got to show up in whatever way it is for the people who you're meant to work with. And if you're feeling uncomfortable with that, understand you're feeling uncomfortable with that, sit in that discomfort. But you've got to get over your badass self. If this is your ego telling you to stay safe, but that's not serving you and it's not serving the people you need to serve. So that is actually what I tell myself every time. And it is, I'm going to show up. I never wear makeup anyway, and I'm going to show up as I am. I might wear yellow. That means that I have a big Zoom day if I'm wearing yellow.
Now I'm going to know.
Now you know. I have the yellow outfits are my power outfits. We were talking about your power shirt. Like, what are the
Keanu
things
Reeves,
we do?
My power shirt.
So tell people, we can't see the bottom of it, but tell me the story about the shirt.
So the bottom of it, my camera's over there. So the bottom of it says, "You're breathtaking." I love Keanu Reeves. I've loved him since I was like 12. And even the more you learn about him, the more you're like, my God, this guy's amazing. So he's on stage and somebody shouted out to him and said, "You're breathtaking." And he said, "You're breathtaking." And my friend Derek knew how much I loved that. And when it came out as a t-shirt, he actually got me this as a present. And I wear this shirt. I have really, really bad social anxiety. I wore this shirt when we met. I was wearing this shirt because I wear this shirt to all my networking events. I actually have to get another one because I've only had it 6 months, but because I wear it so much, it's like a 30-year-old shirt. I need to get a few more so that I can just have them forever. Power shirt.
Well, it's the same thing. Overcome a lot of my social anxiety, I got my white glasses that I wear out, and these are what I have now that I can actually see out of. And
you were wearing your white glasses when I met you.
Yes. Yeah, those are only farsighted, so I can't see the computer with them, but I can drive really well and see around a room. And I wore for a really long time this crystal that Jennifer Gulbrand gave to me, which it was just like Dumbo's feather. And so that's a thing too, right? Like business is an experiment. Like, all right, if I'm holding on to while I'm talking to you, you'll know that I'm a little nervous. I'm going to hold on to this crystal and pretend that it's giving me energy. People will say that it is giving me energy. And so everything right? Everything's in your mind. And it just gave me that Dumbo's feather so that I could fly and be in front of people. So to
That
your
feather is
the whole
amazing.
experiment, like whatever you do, just say, all right, that didn't work. I'm going to try something else, as long as nobody's getting hurt.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, how do you work with people?
How do I work with people?
Yeah. Like so heard all of the beautiful stuff. Do you do one-on-one coaching? You do group coaching?
So I have a couple of different types of coaching that I do. So one of my biggest platforms, and this is why I joined Wiser, is that I feel like, what I love about what you're doing and what so many other amazing coaches are doing is that they're recognizing that people need help at all levels, not just people who can spend a ton of money, right? Mm-hmm. That's the key there, not just people who spend a ton of money. So when I started my business, I knew that I wanted to have 2 tiers of work that I did. I was going to have the work that was accessible to everyone at a really affordable price. And that's my squad group that I do. It's a paid coaching group. And I focus mostly on figuring out how to fit business systems in your life and how to build a business that will run itself mostly, so that you need to be around for the 9 to 5 part of it, but that you can clock out at the end of the day, spend time with your family. Like, you turn your business into a 9 to 5. So that's sort of the goal that I do there, working with mostly small business owners and direct sellers and lots of also light workers and things like health workers, not light workers, sorry, health workers and things like that, nutritionists. But in addition to that, I actually am starting my local workshop series in Walpole this month, February 12th. Yep, it's Boost Your Business with Facebook. I'm doing it the second Wednesday of every month. And there is a discount available. Your listeners will get a discount as well if you are in the Walpole area. It's a 25% discount, so it's a $30 with the discount. And we talk about Facebook and that kind of thing. It's a great way to come and just get some quick questions answered. And I'm also giving away a free Wiser call at the end of that event. But the work that I do with individuals, I actually am very limited. So this is an example of experimentation. When I first started, I would see all the clients because I was afraid I wasn't going to make enough money. I overwhelmed myself. I burned out. I had to come up with a different way of doing it. It wasn't working for me. So I stopped seeing one-on-one clients altogether. And that didn't work for me because then I was missing that supplemental income from my one-on-one clients, and I couldn't figure out how to balance it. And I realized I kept thinking about things as black or white. Either I'm going to have clients or I'm not. And then I realized the third option, which by the way is going to be the name of my book, even though my husband doesn't like that name, because the third option is usually the answer. And so now I work with 3 clients at a time. Specifically, we're like hands-on. I'm like your business partner, but that's at a much higher premium because you're getting my time and I am walking you through every single thing. I'm helping you build your everything. Mm. So I have a variety of different ways in which I work with people, but I specifically focus only on Facebook and strategies with Facebook, and then implementing mindful social media strategies. I used to be very diversified, also an experiment, and I realized that I was not doing anything particularly well. So I honed in my focus like laser focus.
That's awesome. That's how I feel about email marketing, that if there were one area that I was going to focus on, it will be email marketing is what I provide. Yeah,
your emails are amazing and so consistent. I'm like, I want to be like her.
Oh, see, this is an issue too. This is an issue for a whole nother time to talk, right? That imposter syndrome thing, not necessarily imposter syndrome, but when you get on to social media, and I know a lot of solopreneurs have this, right? You get on and you're like, oh, she's doing this, she's doing that. I should do that too. Or I want to be like that too. And I really have been having, and so going back to your self-talk that you talked about at the beginning, I have to actively tell myself all of the time, you're you. You take those business experiment steps that you talked about and see what works as you. And then you can pull in a few things just to try. But to that whole self-doubt thing that so many of our entrepreneurs have is all about that self-talk. So I'm so glad that you talked about that.
Totally. I think what helped me, I want to actually show you something. I have a little planner that I use. I'm actually building my own planner now because this is actually, I've outgrown this one. But I have a list. Oh my God, this is my older planner. But there's a list at the back of all of my planners. It's called my Dream My Business to Life list. And I put everything on there. Okay, I can't find it right now because it's the old planner, but anytime I see something, like if you're doing something or someone else doing something I think it's really cool, I put it on my Dream My Business to Life list, and it just stays there so I know I won't forget about it.
Yes, yep.
And when I am like, okay, I'm ready to try something different, I go, instead of trying to look around, because that registers the panic, right? The cortisol comes in. So I already have that list ready. So when I'm like, all right, I want to add something. So this month I added chatbots. I knew when I first started, I wasn't gonna have time for them. And I didn't have time for them for ages. And then I knew that when I released my quiz that I was gonna need to have the chatbot ready. So I scheduled it into February. I was like, okay, in Feb, I'm gonna work on chatbots. I saw so many people have amazing chatbots, and I get like, I feel that pang.
Yeah.
I think the thing to keep in mind for all of the entrepreneurs and all of your listeners is that I don't think that feeling ever goes away. The feeling where, because that's a physical reaction, it's a biological reaction. We can't really control how our body reacts. But by recognizing that it's going to pass, it's not real, it's just the hormones flowing through. And one of my favorite techniques is to do some deep breathing exercises, really, get that in there, because it activates the vagus nerve, and then we get our serotonin flowing, which then will calm that stress level, and you can now approach it from a different perspective. But that brief, like 30 seconds, is an uncomfortable place to be. And usually, many people listening might say, no, it lasts longer than that. The reason it lasts longer than that is because when it happens, you give it a lot of attention, and you start to follow down the path that it's taking you down, instead of saying, I recognize this is a physiological response. This isn't real. Which I say it out loud to myself all the time. And then I look at it and say, okay, what can I learn from this? So what I learned from you is that you're very good at sharing your emotions and your journey on email, which I don't think I do as well as I do on social media. So I've been reading your emails to really understand how to put that in there. I'm not necessarily studying or like feeling, this is not about judgment. It's just about saying, you are an amazing woman. I am an amazing woman. I have things to teach you. You have things to teach me. Let's learn together.
Right.
And again, removing judgment. That's really the key. I think once we remove judgment, it's so much easier to move forward.
Let's just let that sit for a second too. Once you remove judgment, it's so much easier to move forward. So good, Minessa. So people can find you on directtosuccess.com, correct?
.net.
Or on your Facebook page.
.com was taken.
Oh, so direct to success what?
.net.
.net. Yep. Also on your direct to success group, or is that a private group?
Direct to Success is my business page. If you do a search for it on in the Facebook, you will find it.
Awesome. And now you mentioned that you have a brand new quiz, and people can find that right on your website as well. And also, I think if you have it, you can put it in the chat, and I'll also make sure that I put it any place I post.
Sweet. Yes, definitely. If you are going to do one thing that's not the Q&A. If there's one thing that you take out of this, I would recommend trying out the quiz. It comes with a free set of strategies. This is actually something I was going to do as a paid course. And I was like, you know what? I felt like it was too important to charge. I wanted everybody to have it. And so you take the quiz, it'll tell you what is holding you back in your business. And it's not the things that you'll find in a lot of other places, because these are very heart-centered, very centered on building strong foundations and building up from there rather than trying to solve symptoms.
So good. Minessa, I'm so glad that you spent this time with me this morning. I can't wait to maybe we'll have another time to collaborate sometime soon.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so glad to meet you and so excited to be here and talk to your audience. If there's any questions, you know where to find me. I'm always here.
Sounds